Good morning, this is Miss Webb. Okay, we're going to talk about solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. Did you know you can solve any quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula? Anything. So it's really nice. If something can't be factored, you can use the quadratic equation on it. And I'm going to show you that, but you have to be really careful. So let's go into the quadratic. Okay, so no matter, even if you can't factor something, whoops, you can use the quadratic formula. There's only one problem when you go to use the quadratic formula, and I'll show that to you this year when we get to the point, there's one stoppable point, and we'll say we don't have a solution. When you get to Algebra 2, we're allowed to have imaginary numbers, and you will be able to solve anything with the quadratic. Okay. On this one, if you want to solve using the quadratic formula, you have to find a, b, and c. What do you mean, a, b, and c? Okay, you have to know the coefficient in front of x squared, the coefficient in front of x, and the caboose, that back constant. On this one, a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to 12. If there was no middle term, b would be equal to 0. Can A, B, or C be negative? Yes. And what do we do when we put things into formulas? We make sure we keep that negative sign and we use our parentheses. Okay, now this is the quadratic formula. My Algebra 2 class, I require that it be memorized. They have to be able to tell me what it is. I don't give this to them on the test. It is, I don't want to say negative B. It's the opposite of B. So if b is a 4, the opposite of b is negative 4. But if b was negative 4, the opposite of negative 4 would be positive 4. This is a plus or minus because when I take the square root of something, I get 2 answers there. It's the square root. I have b squared. When you put b in there, you better put it in parentheses and then square it. So if b was a 4, 4 squared would be 16. What if b was a negative 4? Well, guess what? Negative 4 times negative 4 also gives you a positive 16. Okay, then you have a minus, and it's minus 4ac. So you can think of these like that. I've got a minus 4ac, or you could think of it, here's a better way to think of it. I got a negative 4 here, minus 4 times A times C. Anyway, let me show you the signs. It'll make a little more sense here, okay? But I know a lot of people have problems with that one. Okay, let's do it this way, the way I did it in the beginning. Okay, 4 times A. A is 1, it's positive. C is 12, so it would be 4 times 12, which is 48. So it would be minus 48. Can you see if A or C is negative, then that number would be positive. Okay, then it's the whole thing. That is my cat, which is screaming, and I don't know why. I think she's mad because my daughter's locked her out of her room. Okay, the whole thing divided by 2a. Sunshine, you need to shut up. Okay, completely over 2 over a. So sometimes people like to just divide this part here by 2a. Sometimes they make the mistake of only dividing this by 2a. What I like to do, and when we go into graphing, it'll make a little more sense, is I like to divide this into 2 different things. I like to say d, that's called the discriminant, is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And I do it like this. I find the discriminant first, and then I say negative b plus or minus the discriminant all over 2a. Let me show it to you. Okay, I want to solve this. To be able to solve it, I have to know that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 5, and c is equal to 6. I also have to know the discriminant is equal to the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and I have to know the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the discriminant all over 2a. Let's do the discriminant first. Discriminant is going to equal to the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times c. Everybody's positive. This could be an easy one. Discriminant is equal to the square root of 25 minus 24. Discriminant is equal to the square root of 1, which is equal to 1. Okay, I now have the discriminant. Let's finish it out. The opposite of b would be negative 5 plus or minus the discriminant I figured out was 1 all over 2 times 1. So I have 5 plus or minus 1 over 2. You wouldn't leave it like that. You would go, okay, let's do 5 plus 1 divided by 2. What does that equal? 6 divided by 2, it's 3. How about 5 minus 1 divided by 2? That would be 4 divided by 2, which would be equal to 2. There are my two answers, 3 and 2. Okay? And now let me go get my cat who's been screaming, and we'll go to the next example. Let's see if we can get my cat to shut up. Here we go. On this one, a equals 2, b equals 5, and c equals 3. I'm going to solve for my discriminant. I have to know the discriminant is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. My discriminant, square root, 5 squared minus 4 times a times c. Okay, I got my discriminant equal to the square root 25 minus, that's 8 times 3. I got another one like that. My discriminant is equal to the square root of 1. My discriminant is equal to 1. Now I have to put it in my quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is the opposite of b minus my discriminant, it's plus or minus my discriminant, over 2a. Okay, what's the opposite of b? That would be a negative 5 plus or minus my discriminant, which is a 1, all over 2 times 2, and I get negative 5 plus or minus 1 all over 4. Now, this time I'm going to say negative 5 plus 1, because see it's plus or minus, so do it with the plus sign first. And I get negative 4 over 4, I get a negative 1. And here I'm going to get negative 5 minus 1 over 4, and I'm going to get a negative 6 over 6. I'm going to get a negative 1. Those are my two answers, negative 1 and negative 1. That's using the quadratic formula. Okay, because it might have taken me a while to figure out how to factor that, but I can always do the quadratic formula. Let's try one more. Okay, a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 4, c is equal to 3, right? No. This has to be set equal to 0. Subtract it from both sides. C is actually negative 3. Okay, my discriminant is the square root of b squared minus 4ac. My discriminant is equal to the square root, what's b? B is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16 minus 4 times 3 times negative 3. Look at this. When I come here, it would be the square root. Notice a negative times a negative is a positive. It's 16 plus 12 times 3, 36. My discriminant is equal to the square root of, let's see, 52. I don't know what the square root of 52 is. That's, I don't know. I don't think I can reduce or simplify that anymore. It's not a perfect square. I'm going to leave it. So when I come up here and I go negative b plus or minus the discriminant over 2 over a, what's the opposite of b? It's a positive 4 plus or minus, what's 2 times a? Be 6. And I'm going to leave it just like that. Okay, because this is not a perfect square. I can't do anything with it. I want to show you what happens if I end up, let's say my discriminant, let's say that c was actually a positive 3. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just giving you another example. So let's say if c was a positive 3. Then I would come down here and I get 16 minus 36. I'd get a minus 20. What do you do when the discriminant is a negative number? At that point, you can't have a negative square root, and you would say no solution. That's what you say in the beginning of Algebra 2 until we get to imaginary numbers. And then you can do it with imaginary numbers. But if you have a negative in that square root, that's when you say no solution. Okay? Let's see if I gave you another example. Nope, that was it. Good luck with your work.